Yeah.
But like I said, and then, of course, after Axis Sally, the band that we've heard plenty of on my show, and even years ago on 97 Underground Shockwave, being a member
Yep.
of the being chosen again, here you are on these radio station albums,
Yeah.
WKTK and 97 Underground, getting
Right.
one of the original ones on there. And
Mhm.
I mention that whenever I play your stuff, hey, somebody from the original album of the original 97 Underground Beast from the East album.
Right.
And you still see them around too, which is
Yeah.
kind of neat, that was just and that was such a great thing that that 97 was doing that back then, because
Yeah.
it really does show good support, and especially when people are taking the time to play the local stuff. I try to make at least half of my show local original people, because that struggle was mine at one point. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do. And the thing is that I wouldn't do it if I didn't think this material was worth hearing.
Hmm.
I mean, if
Right.
it was just crap, I'd just be playing whatever's on the
Well,
charts right now. But I
right.
think it is worth it. And I think that tell me if you. I mean, I think there were a lot of people that I think in our time got sold short, because there were a number of bands that I've spoken to that were getting contracts around 89, 90. They got but then they kind of got abandoned, or they got no funding for their tours or follow up albums because of the grunge era that came in.
Yeah. Interesting. There's kind of a repeating pattern. Music styles tend to last,
Mm-hmm.
on the radio, whatever's selling, whatever's popular. The trends tend to change about every 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you look back when the Beatles came to the US in 1964,
Mm-hmm.
and that started what was called the British invasion,
Yep.
and you had, and of course, the American bands that came along as well. But when you listen to the style of music from, say, 64 to 67, you take the years 64, 65, 66, and into 67, it was it was all pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't mean the song sounded like I don't mean they all sounded the same, but I mean the style, the pop, the British invasion style.
Yeah.
And then 67, 68, music started getting heavier. You had the
Mm-hmm.
Jimi Hendrix Experience,
Yep.
had Cream.
Yep.
A couple years after that, literally, well, like in 69 or 70, Led Zeppelin
Mm-hmm.
came along. So music got heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And then early 70s, the progressive rock era really kicked in with bands like Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
And then it was a few years after that, mid 70s. So again, we're at this 3 to 4 year interval. Then
Mm-hmm.
disco came in,
Yep.
yeah, and then new wave came in, and then heavy metal came in the 80s.
Yep.
So there is this 3 to 4 year lifespan when, and then the trend of music changes. And like you're saying, yeah, some of those bands that were rock bands, when
Mm-hmm.
the style changed to, or the trend changed to grunge music, they were kind of viewed as,
Mm-hmm.
outdated.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
And yeah, and that was the thing too. They really didn't get a chance to get started or anything. So,
no,
fast forward 30 some years, okay. A lot of the bands that were on the circuit back in those days, that were playing around here, DC, you know, like my contemporaries and your contemporaries too with Shockwave. A lot
hmm,
of these guys are either getting the band back together because they're now playing music again. The kids are grown and out of the house. They're able to do it. And there's been a number of them too that have been getting, distribution deals for their material
Mm,
from those days,
good.
and they're back out again, um, playing and sending it my way. I've been giving it spins on my show, but yeah, so yeah, it's good to see that again. That's people are at least getting their due, or at least some unfinished business from those days is being kind of taken care of, and maybe they're getting closure. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. I think,
It's
right?
it's it's a, it's probably a bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the people who were playing music in that era, they're not young people anymore,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's fun to go back and redo it
Uh-huh.
again. It's never the same. It
Yeah.
never will.
Yeah.
It never will be the same, and this is why I don't do it.
Right. Right.
I would personally, I would get a kick out of going out and playing the songs that I played in the Silver Queen era.
Uh-huh.
I would personally get a kick out of doing that, but it would never be the same again
Right. Right.
because everything is different now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's totally different to play those songs when you're 19, 18, 19 years old, 20, as to when you're in your 60s.
Uh-huh.
Your audience is totally different now.
Yeah.
So it would never be the same, and it's really another classic case of you can never go home again.
Yeah. Right. Here you go. Here we're back to full circle here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Um,
that was one of the things. Like I say, the my whole contention was as popular as Silver Queen was, and it was a popular band,
uh-huh.
in its time. Um, I was looking ahead, like, well, when we put the band together, we were like, everybody in the band was about 16 or 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the attitude like, yeah, we want to make it in music. And we had that ambition. And
Mm-hmm.
after a few years into it, I started looking at it realistically, like, well, we don't have anything original to offer a
Mm-hmm.
record company. We did a lot of Alice Cooper and Led Zeppelin and stuff. Well, Alice Cooper was already doing Alice Cooper.
Sure. Right. Right.
Okay, so and Led Zeppelin was already doing Led Zeppelin, and
Uh-huh.
so that's when I felt we have to get this in gear to do original material.
Uh-huh.
And you know, at that point, I was almost 22,
Sure.
so I thought, this is going to be stuck in the mud. I don't want to be the people that were coming to hear us at the teen centers then.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to be playing for their children and their grandchildren.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
you know what I mean, in a teen center. But it's you know that was something I recognized then,
Uh-huh.
that it's time to take this to the next level, or else stop doing it, one or the
Uh-huh.
other. And that was a huge motivation. Funny thing, years later, decades later, my cousin told me, he said they were plotting anyway. They were going to replace me. Most of us, we didn't get along anyway. And I find that kind of laughable, that what are you going to do, get somebody else and plug them in and do cover material to
Uh-huh.
keep doing cover material, you
Right.
know so years later, when he told me that, I thought, well, that's kind of funny.
Uh-huh.
uh, Looking back on it, it's like, okay, so you're going to get somebody else to play the cover songs,
Uh-huh.
uh, whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
you
Hey.
know,
Yep.
but it
So,
was, another thing
uh-huh.
that was very inspirational, in the original era, like after Silver Queen, I started hearing and reading about the New York music scene.
Uh-huh.
So Dave Bradley and Bob Knight and I took a bus up there, and we said, let's go up and check it out.
Uh-huh.
So we went to Manhattan and stayed in a flea bag of a hotel, roach infested flea bag.
Oh yeah.
there were so many roaches in this hotel. We
Hmm.
took food with us, some snacks and stuff. We had to tie the bag up on, there was a light cord, like where you pull the cord
Yeah.
to turn the light on.
Jesus.
We hung the food off of that rope, that off of that cord,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because we
right.
didn't want to leave it sitting on the dresser or anything because there's been roaches crawling all over it.
Mm-mm-mm.
So we actually had to tie the bag of food, tie the light
Hmm.
cord around the bag and hang it from that and hope that that would keep the roaches off of it.
Right, right. You know, when you're describing this hotel, I'm picturing like the typical Fleabag New York hotel you saw on TV and movies with you're trying to sleep, but the neon signs like right
Yeah,
outside
yeah,
your window, and
yeah,
you come in and there's all these people sitting in the lobby on these dirty couches, and there's one person behind the counter,
yeah,
with a whole bunch of mailboxes. They hand you your key.
yeah,
What do you want
yeah,
here?
yeah. It was. I don't. I don't want to mention the name of the hotel now that
Hmm.
I've said bad shit about it.
Yeah,
Um, but anyway, it was right up in Manhattan,
yeah.
and
But you're not in a hurry to stay there again, are you?
well, believe it or not, we actually went back and stayed there again.
Oh, oh boy.
Now, here's the reason, though, because we
Hmm.
couldn't afford to stay in the better places.
Well, that's true too. I mean,
Hotels in New York, even then, were very, very expensive.
oh yeah, yes they are. Yes, they are.
So we just thought these prices are outrageous. So this place, the prices were appropriately low, and
Yeah.
that's where we stayed.
Hmm.
And when we returned, we stayed in the same dump.
Hmm.
Uh, but anyway, the what it led to was we wanted to go out there and see what the music scene was like, and everybody in Manhattan
Hmm.
was playing original material.
Yep. Hmm.
We went to multiple nightclubs. Nobody
Hmm.
was doing cover material whatsoever.
Right. Right. Very
Nobody.
true. Hmm.
And we went up there many times and went to nightclubs all over the place, all over Manhattan.
Hmm.
And it didn't matter whether it was a small nightclub in Greenwich Village or one of the larger
Hmm.
hard rock clubs. Nobody was doing cover material.
No. No.
And that really left an impression on us that nobody is doing cover material.
Right. Right.
So that just reinforced my belief and my awareness that this is the only way to go.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, this is it. And again, that's what was carried on
Hmm.
in these bands. Any band I was in after Silver Queen, every one of them did a considerable amount of original material.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of them, that was all they did.
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah,
So,
and but that's the way it was up there at the time too. And another thing too that I thought was really interesting was that because we played up there a few times, and my band, Orange Sheet Parade, we did
mhm.
CBGBs, and the
That's a
thing that
big
I
club.
oh, it was a great club.
Yeah, big in name.
Yeah, big in name, and not big in this place wasn't very big in hygiene neither. When it, but another thing that I noticed too, though, was that when people would come, the club would empty out in between acts, and they would almost like go outside
Yeah.
to let you get their stuff together, and then come back in when the band was set up and ready to go,
Eh,
which
eh,
I
eh,
thought was really cool. Because
yeah.
really, when you'd be doing these, 4 or 5 band shows, especially here, it was in between acts. It kind of ruins the illusion when you kind of want it to be a surprise when you start, or for it to be
Mhm.
fresh. You don't want to start playing, and it's kind of anticlimactic when you start your set after everybody's been watching you get in tune and stack up your amps.
Yeah.
It's kind of they would go outside, they would come back in when you were ready, and it was like, yeah.
You don't have an entrance when everybody
Right.
sees you humping
Mhm.
your own amp up on the stage and then tuning up and all that. You
Hmm.
have no entrance.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. But that was really a life altering event, musically life
Hmm.
altering event to see what was going on up there.
Yep.
Um, and and even before I went to New York, I would see these bands, these top 40 bands playing in like the Holiday Inn circuit
Yeah. Yeah.
or some nightclub, and I would think to myself, Christ, I hope I don't end up like that.
Mm-mm.
And and a lot of these guys, they were 30-ish at the time and older, and they were still playing the cover circuit. And I used to see that, and I used to think that to myself, but for the grace of God, there go I. Okay,
Yeah. Right.
I
Right.
I did not want
Hmm.
to end up being 35 years old or worse and
Hmm.
playing the Holiday Inn circuit.
Yeah.
Because you can do that when you're 45, and
Hmm.
no,
Murph and the Magic Tones, right? From Blues
yeah,
Brothers.
yes, exactly. It's fine if really you're not able to get a real job, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
But man, I just would not want to have done that
Yeah.
for a career.
Hmm.
No.
Yeah. And you know what, too? It's the depressing thing about that, especially when you're really trying hard to promote your original material. I had a guest on the show who I've had as another recurring guest. They've had a few CDs out over the years, and they have got decent material. It's good stuff.
Hmm.
They were selling CDs at one of their shows and they always did a mixture of originals and covers. They would still go out and do 3 sets a night, but it was probably about 50% or maybe 70% original or 70% cover, 30% original.
Hmm.
And so they were during their break, walking around saying, "You want to buy a CD? You want to buy a CD?" So somebody comes over and goes, "This one has you doing Barracuda on it, doesn't it?" And she's like, "No." And then
Uh,
she was like, "Why would we release a CD with us doing Barracuda?"
yeah.
And like,
The,
no, you know.
yeah. Pretty much the only time a band is gonna release a cover song, and I'll give you a prime example of this.
Hmm.
And when I was in New York, I met a lot of people in the music business, and they would tell me some of these things. They would say, "Well, this is why this is done, or why that's done." If you have if an old song was a hit, and enough time has passed,
Hmm.
and you have new music listeners, then then a current band can reissue it and they update it.
Hmm.
Prime example of that is "You Really Got Me"
Oh
by
yeah, sure.
Van
Hmm.
Halen. That, of course, it came out in the mid '60s by the Kinks.
Hmm.
"You Really Got Me." Um, 20 years later, mid '80s, enough time had passed where you had a new group of music listeners who never heard of the Kinks.
Sure. Right.
They never
Right.
even heard the original version. I can remember maybe 20 years ago, I was talking to a younger guy in music, and I mentioned that, and he said, "Wow, I never knew that."
Hmm.
Yeah, prime example. So, Van Halen, their first big hit was a cover song.
Hmm.
The
Yes.
re,
Yeah.
a guy in the record business told me one of the reasons they'll do that is they feel if it's a if it's already been a proven hit
Hmm.
in another time, it'll probably be successful again with a new group of people listening
Hmm.
to it. New, um, younger people who are younger now never heard the original. So the hope is, well, it can be a hit again.
Sure. Sure. Well, the
And
Quiet Riot's another example of that too.
yes,
You
yes,
know.
they were doing Slade.
Yeah. And they
Yeah,
hated it,
Goodbye
but they.
Jane, an old Slade hit from the '70s. Yeah,
Hmm.
prime example.
Right. Right. I mean, I
So
always loved Slade, but I don't think they did. And
Not yeah. I always like Slade too. I used to play a couple Slade songs
Oh yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah. It, but that's why that would be done.
Hmm.
And another reason it would be done, a record company may feel that that remake is a stronger song than anything the band has written.
Yeah, that's another
Any
thing. Yeah.
their any of their original material, the record company might say it's okay, but it's not a hit.
Hmm.
So let's do this because it was a hit once before.
Sure, sure.
But that's that's when you've got a record deal and you've got a major record label behind you and they're going to push it,
Hmm.
and then the album is going to come out, and on that album, yeah, you got a cover as a hit, but on the album you got a bunch of your own material on there. But when you're a local band and you're putting out a CD,
Hmm.
I can't imagine doing a cover song at that time.
Right, right.
Yeah, no,
Yep. Well,
no.
what I would like to do, is with your permission, I'd like to stick, when I'm here and at the end of the interview for people to see the video and be able
Yeah,
to hear the song.
yeah.
And so, what, maybe just a couple more questions I'd like to ask.
Hmm.
You've in recent years, with the material you've been putting out, you've had pretty much like your go-to ensemble of musicians, um,
Well,
you
singers.
of singers,
Yeah.
and yeah, some singer vocalists on your songs.
Hmm.
And so, tell us a little bit about the personnel for this one.
Well, on this song, when I'm here, I play um, all the instruments
Hmm.
except the percussion. Fran plays the percussion
Yeah.
and sings on it.
Hmm.
I play the all the guitar parts and the bass guitar.
Hmm.
Even on my other newer songs, like all the Mad Men at Play, I Knew All
Sure.
Your Names, I'm playing all the instruments.
Hmm.
I wrote and recorded all the parts, all the keyboard parts, all the guitar parts, the bass.
Hmm.
I have a drummer that I've been playing with on my recordings, Ed Haywood.
Hmm.
He plays in a band called Temp, Temp, and then he fills in for a couple other bands. But and then he records on my songs. He's somebody else. I met him actually when I was putting Silver Queen together. Is when I met him. He was putting a band together, and we were 17 at the time. And I answered an ad he had in the paper, and I went down his house, and we auditioned, and that's when I got to meet him, and so we've been friends since then. There were
Hmm.
several years, in between where we had kind of fallen out of contact, but we had it's a long story, but through a mutual friend, we ended up reconnecting.
Hmm.
Uh, so he's been doing the drumming, except for Fran played the percussion on this song when I'm here. And then the other people are vocalists.
Hmm.
One is Robin Osick. She's married to a best friend of mine since sixth grade. That's how I got to know her. He's a guitar player. They play in a duo in Hagerstown called East of Antietam.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, Fran, he sings on some of my songs. And I met Fran in college.
Hmm.
That's actually how far back we go. And then, of course, the history of the bands he's played in with me. So, and then there's another guy, Jim or James Fitzpatrick. He's the guy you
Hmm.
recommended.
Know him well.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, um, great voice,
Hmm.
and he sang on all the Mad Men at Play.
Yep.
He's in that video, and he was the other. He was the other voice on "I'd Go Back for You."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was doing all the harmonies on that. So, and then Robin's husband Jim, he did some backing vocals on a couple of the songs. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I do all the guitars, keyboards,
Hmm.
bass, and then I use Ed on drums, and whichever singer I think fits the song most appropriately.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's great. I mean, I mean, like you've been doing this, and working, with various, all these folks in different capacities, and then some more on this song, some on the other. But
hmm,
you've written some really, and produced some really nice stuff in recent years. This,
thank
I
you.
guess you would call it this era of your
Yeah,
songwriting,
hmm,
and definitely very enjoyable. Now, where can we find all of these? You have a website and a YouTube page. Tell us where we can find those.
yeah. The website is www.gs. It's my initials.
Hmm.
ESSongs.com, or you can just type in my name on YouTube,
Hmm.
Greg Centers, and it'll bring up my YouTube channel.
Right.
But I'd
Right.
really recommend going to the website because there you see all the songs listed. And I also have pictures on there. I have a section on there called stories where
Hmm. Sure.
I
Yeah.
just put up some, some brief stories about some aspect of something with music related.
Hmm.
Um, and I had, and I an Irish magazine called Irish Roots did a story on me, and that story is on my website. So that's really where all the information is.
I see. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right. I've looked through it. It's great, and I appreciate your support for my shows on there too. By the way.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, folks. And with your permission, we will, if you would grant us that permission, we will put on the video right after, we sign off from here for when I'm here,
Yep.
and enjoy that. And I'll also, make sure you remember, we'll have the links available for you to go to gssongs.com and where to find Greg's
Uh-huh.
material on YouTube. So, Greg, again, thanks again for joining us. Again, we always appreciate your support and your willingness to share with us here.
It's
And
fun, and thanks for your support.
absolutely,
You've been a
anytime,
lot of
anytime.
support to my efforts.
So, folks, we've had it. We've had him back again. Greg Centers has joined us tonight to share some more stories of yesteryear in the Baltimore scene. What he's doing now, and like I said, check out his material. Definitely give him some hits and some spins, and we will see you all next time. Thanks again, Greg, for joining
All
us
right.
tonight,
Thanks. All
and
right.
we'll see you all next time on Foul Players Radio.
Here I am to visit this old ground of mine. All that was has changed, and I am now a stranger. When I'm here, I won't stay for long, just long enough to play a song. When the memories come to mind, there are some I'd live again. All the days seem so long. How were the years so short? If I dream long enough, I can bring them back for a while. When I'm here, I'll talk to the stones, and I know they're not alone. I'll be back another time, and we'll talk once again.
Folks, thanks again for tuning in tonight. I had a great time sitting down with my good friend Greg Sinners, talking about his brand new song, When I'm Here, as well as the video that comes with it. Always fun to reminisce with him and let him tell his stories about the bands he's been in over the years. And always a pleasure. He's been a big supporter of the show and has contributed a lot of music that I play on 97 Underground on my show there. So, folks, thank you again for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. We thank you for your support. Please remember to support our guests in their endeavors and also to support this show. Foulplayersradio.com or youtube.com/@foulplayersradio. If you please hit the like and subscribe button, tell a friend, share our stuff, and remember again to support our guests in their endeavors, buying tickets to their shows. When you can purchase their music, or if you can purchase any kind of merchandise, please do so, because these guys are really working hard. And there's a lot of great treasures out there that you're depriving yourself of otherwise. So make sure you get on it. Folks, we will see you all next time. Michael Spedden here. Stick around, and we'll see you next time. This is Michael Spedden, Foul Players Radio, signing off.